You still remember the day it fell apart. Maybe it was a relationship. Maybe it was your reputation. Maybe it was your faith itself. The one thing you thought could never be taken from you. And when it went, something inside you went with it. You woke up one morning in a life that no longer looked like yours. And the voice that should have been the quietest one got the loudest. It said, you cannot come back from this. You are too far gone. You are too broken to be blessed. Stay right here, because that voice is lying to you. And I am going to prove it. The weight of what was lost. There are so many people walking around right now carrying the invisible weight of what used to be theirs. They rehearse the loss. They replay the moment. They measure every good thing that came after against the thing that got taken. And the more they rehearse it, the heavier it gets. Here is what nobody tells you about loss. Grief is not just about what is gone. It is about the version of yourself you thought you would be by now. The marriage that was supposed to last. The dream that was supposed to work. The faith that was supposed to be unshakable. You are not just mourning the thing. You are mourning the future you already built inside your mind. And now you do not know what to build instead. That disorientation is real. God does not minimize it. He does not tell you to just move on, just get over it, just be positive. He meets you in it. Look at what he said through the prophet Joel. Not after Israel had cleaned themselves up. Not after they had earned their way back to abundance. While they were still standing in the wreckage of their own failure, God said, I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten. The years, plural, the seasons of loss. The chapters that felt like they were destroying you instead of developing you. God said, I will repay those. Not too bad, they are gone. Not you should have protected what you had. Repay, restore, return with interest what the enemy stripped away. That is the kind of God you serve. A God who does not just give you a fresh start. He redeems the time that felt completely wasted. Why broken is not the end of your story. Here is what the enemy wants you to believe, that the broken version of you is the final version of you. He wants you addicted to the grief. He wants you measuring your present by your past loss, gauging how much God must love you by how much you still hurt, deciding that if God really cared, he would not have let this happen in the first place. He frames the breaking as the conclusion, but God frames the breaking as the beginning. Think about every person in Scripture who walked into their calling through the door of devastation. Joseph did not reach his destiny through comfort. He got there through a pit, through betrayal, through false accusation, through years in a prison where nobody remembered him, and every single chapter that looked like destruction was actually construction. God was not absent from the pit. He was building the man who would save nations inside it. Ruth lost her husband, her home, her country. She was a widow in a foreign land with nothing but a stubborn loyalty to a mother-in-law who had nothing to offer her. And from that emptiness, from choosing love over security, she stepped into a lineage that leads straight to Jesus Christ. Peter denied Jesus 3 times, publicly, when it mattered most, and Jesus did not write him off. After the resurrection, he went back for Peter specifically, found him where he had retreated, back to his boat, back to fishing, back to the only life he knew before the calling came. 3 times Jesus asked, "Do you love me?" 3 times he said, "Feed my sheep." The number of his failure was also the number of his restoration. God does not just patch the wound. He replaces the memory, how restoration actually works. Most people are waiting to feel restored before they act restored. Waiting until the grief lifts. Waiting until the evidence of breakthrough shows up before they start believing it is coming. But that is not how God's economy works. Restoration is not a feeling you wait for. It is a truth you walk toward. Romans 8:28 does not say God works things out when you finally feel good enough. It says in all things, in the divorce, in the bankruptcy, in the diagnosis, in the failure, he is working for the good of those who love him. That means the working is already happening right now, in the middle of the mess, whether you can see it or not. The question is not, is God restoring me? The question is, am I cooperating with the restoration or am I camping in the rubble? Because here is the thing about rubble. It is familiar. It is yours. You know every broken piece of it. You can walk through the wreckage blindfolded because you have walked through it 1,000 times in your mind. And familiar pain is a strange kind of comfort. At least there are no more surprises. But God is calling you out of the rubble, not because the pain was not real, not because the loss did not matter, but because he has a city to build, and he cannot build it while you are committed to living in the ruins. Psalm 147:3 says he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. That word bind in the original Hebrew means to wrap tightly like a bandage around a wound. This is not a superficial fix. God goes to the place of deepest damage and applies pressure. He holds it together while the healing happens underneath. It is not instant, it is intentional. And it requires you to stop pulling the bandage off every time you want to measure the wound. Stop measuring the wound. Trust the one who is binding it. The exchange God is offering you. Isaiah 61:3 describes exactly what God trades in. Beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, a garment of praise for a spirit of despair. Notice what he asks you to bring: ashes, mourning, despair, the worst of what you have, the leftovers of what the fire took. God does not require you to come cleaned up and reconstructed. He requires you to come as you are, broken, emptied out, willing, and he will do the exchange. This is not a self-help program. You cannot positive think your way to this. You cannot hustle your way back. What was lost in the spirit must be restored in the spirit. And that starts with the most counterintuitive thing in the world: surrender. Not surrender to the loss, surrender to the God who redeems it. There is a vast difference between those two things. Surrendering to the loss says, "This is my identity now." Surrendering to God says, "I do not understand what you are building, but I trust that you are building something." That second surrender is where the turning point lives. And cooperation with restoration is not passive. You stop rehearsing the loss and start rehearsing the promises, not bypassing the grief, processing it, handing it to God, and then choosing not to rehearse it another 1,000 times. The enemy wants you to practice the memory of loss until it becomes the loudest thing in your life. Starve that practice. Feed something better. Stay in community. Isolation is where restoration goes to die. When Elijah was broken under the juniper tree, God sent bread, water, and a single instruction: the journey is too great for you. Get up and eat. You were not built to recover alone. Return to the word, not as a theological exercise, as medicine. Read about Joseph. Read about Ruth. Read about Peter. Read Psalm 23 until it becomes the narration of your own story. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Even here, even now, even in this. What is waiting on the other side? Here is what God does not do. He does not restore you to exactly what you had before. He restores you to something greater, because the you who comes out of the breaking is not the same you who went in. Something was built in that wilderness that could not have been built any other way, and God does not waste a single piece of it. Joseph walked out of prison into the second most powerful position in Egypt. The very brothers who sold him into slavery came and bowed before the seat of his restoration. What the enemy meant to destroy became the platform for the miracle. Ruth became the great-grandmother of King David and an ancestor of Jesus Christ. The emptiness that looked like a dead end was actually the road to the most significant lineage in human history. Peter preached at Pentecost, and 3,000 people were saved in a single day. The man who denied Christ 3 times became the rock on whom the entire church was built. Your chapter of loss is not the conclusion, it is the setup. God is doing something with this, with the thing that broke you, with the years that felt wasted, with the grief you thought would never lift. He is working in the silence and the suffering that your eyes cannot yet see and your feelings cannot yet register, but he is faithful, and the restoration that is coming is not just going to cover what was lost, it is going to make the loss make sense. Here is your challenge this week. Find the area of your life where you have been living in the rubble, the loss you have been rehearsing, the wound you keep measuring, the version of your life you gave up on because the break-in felt too final. Bring it to God in spoken prayer. Out loud, say it: "Father, I surrender this loss to you. I believe you are building something from it. I trust you with the parts I cannot understand." Write this where your eyes land every single day. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147:3. He is not done with you. He was never done with you. The breaking was not the end. It was the beginning of something your old self could never have carried. God bless you. The best is not behind you. The best is what God builds from what you thought was lost.